Good morning, everyone. I'm Greg Melchin, the chair of the Enmax board, and I'm pleased to welcome you today to our Enmax's annual shareholder meeting. And want to appreciate everybody taking the time to join us online again this year. Our annual meeting is an opportunity to address annual governance requirements and share an update of Enmax's operations with our shareholder, the City of Calgary Council, and of course, all Calgarians. I want to first acknowledge what an impactful, challenging year this has been for our province, city, and for all customers. Through it all, we have never been so proud of the Nmax team and the resilience, care, and dedication they have shown. Over the past 15 months, they have adapted quickly to new work environments and protocols, all while demonstrating a deep commitment to safety so that they could continue showing up every day to keep essential electricity services going for our customers and communities. It's an honor to stand in front of you today to represent our employees and share our story. Our session today has two parts: our formal annual meeting, followed by a brief report from our President and CEO, Wayne O'Connor, on Enmax's operations and performance. We will have time at the end for questions from members of the public, and we'll hold a separate call for members of the media following the event. I would like to welcome first off the City Council members as shareholder of Enmax. Present with us today are Mayor Naheed Nenshi, Councillors Ward Sutherland, Joe Maglioka, Jody Gondek, Sean Chu, George Chahal, Jeff Davidson, Drew Farrell, Evan Woolley, Giancarlo Carra, Jeremy Farkas, Shane Keating, Diane Colley-Urquhart, and Peter DeMog. Would also like to welcome the current Enmax board members, Wayne O'Connor, Laura Formusa, Eric Markel, Elise Reese, Charles Rugrock, Kathleen Sendel, Richard Shaw, William Taylor, and Bruce Williamson. The board of directors is committed to serving the best interest of Calgarians and delivering value to our shareholder. We're fortunate our board has extensive corporate leadership experience, deep regulated and competitive industry knowledge, and collectively brings over 300 years of business experience. 2021 marks a year of board transition and renewal for Enmax. Firstly, our long-standing director, Richard Shaw, is retiring and will not be standing for a re-election this year. Richard joined the board in 2011 and has served as chair of the governance committee since 2016. Richard brought extensive legal, governance, and commercial experience to the Enmax board. Enmax has greatly benefited from his time on the board, and we're forever grateful for the time he spent with us. It has been a great pleasure working with Richard. On behalf of Enmax, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude for his years of service. As our shareholder is aware, Enmax has been engaged in director recruitment over the past months. As a result of comprehensive recruitment effort, I am pleased to welcome the two new director candidates that will be put forward to the shareholder for election to the Enmax board during today's proceedings. Ms. Barbara Monroe and Dr. Chika Onwekwe. The profile of our board member, including the new director candidates, are found in Schedule B with the AGM materials we prepared for members of City Council, and pending appointment today will be available on Enmax website. Ms. Monroe and Dr. Onwekwe will be excellent additions to the Enmax board, and the company will benefit tremendously from their experience if elected today. I would now like to introduce our executive team. Wayne O'Connor, President and CEO, along with Jana Mosley, Senior Vice President, Enmax Power, John Flynn, President, Burson Power, Lonnie Enns, Senior Vice President, Enmax Energy, Preet Dinza, Executive Vice President and CFO, Erica Young, Chief Legal Officer, Executive Vice President, Corporate Development, Brandy Yarish, Senior Vice President, People, Safety and Culture, and Chief Human Resources Officer, Diana Stevenson, Vice President, Public Affairs and Sustainability. We will now conduct our annual shareholder meeting. We have 3 items to bring forward to our shareholder. Due to the virtual setting of our meeting, I will provide an overview of the official matters of business before members of council. Mayor Nenshi will then call on each member of council to state how they will vote on all 3 matters. Mayor Nenshi, as shareholder representative, will then cast the final votes. As chair, I am now calling the formal annual shareholder meeting to order. Members of council, there are 3 formal matters of business to be presented today. As follows: receipt of Enmax's 2020 audited financial statements, the appointment of our auditor for 2021, and thirdly, the election of our board of directors. The council has continuously demonstrated their commitment to ensuring our organization is guided well on behalf of the citizens of Calgary. Over the course of the last year and into 2021, we regularly met to share information on Enmax's performance, operations, investments, and outlook. I want to acknowledge the guidance and support we have received from council over this past year. I would now like to invite Mayor Nenshi to say a few words on behalf of council. Mayor Nenshi?
Thanks very much, Chair Melchin. Thank you for having us here today. I can't believe this is my last annual general meeting as mayor to be here with you, but I'm happy to have the opportunity to say a few words, not just about the last year, but really about the last decade. Nmax has certainly gone through its ups and downs over that period of time, but ultimately I believe that we have crafted a strong organization that justifies its ownership by citizens in the work that it does, not only an organization that does well as a business, but that also understands its public value in providing safe, clean, reliable, and convenient energy to people, which, as I've said for many years, is one of the most significant anti-poverty tools we have. Now, obviously, this has been a big year. We've been dealing with COVID, which impacted the electrical utility industry in many ways. We've been dealing with a reckoning in every corporate boardroom and meeting room on the issue of anti-racism and the true meaning of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And of course, we concluded a major acquisition, the largest acquisition in Enmax's history. And we welcomed a new CEO. Wayne, I feel like I know you so well, but I have to remind myself that we haven't actually met in person, only on screens in this crazy year. And through all of that, through all of this transition, we continue to provide people with that safe, clean, reliable energy that they need every single day. And I'm proud of where we've come, but I will highlight that we've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of work to do in terms of our sustainability goals, in terms of our net zero targets. We've got a lot of work to do to make sure that our decision making is truly reflective of the communities that we serve. And we have a lot of financial work to do to ensure that we're providing a return to the citizens of Calgary commensurate with the investment that they have put in. But I think we've got the right leadership in place to do this. So I will say a special thank you to Richard Shaw. Richard has been on the board the entire time that I've been mayor. I think you and I are the old timers around here, Richard, with Greg. And thank you so much for all of your tremendous and extraordinary service. And a special welcome to Barbara Monroe and to Chika Onwueke for being with us. I know that you will do a terrific job, and never forgetting that ultimately, although I speak for the shareholder is not my 14 colleagues on council and me. It is the 1.4 million citizens of Calgary, and we will continue to do right by them, and we will continue to do good by them. So with that, I'll say one last thing, which is, of course, in addition to our time of reckoning on anti-racism and equity, we are also in a time of reconciliation. And it is difficult for us to make pronouncements about history while we're living it, but I believe that we are in a historical moment. And we as a company will do right by our community building here on this ancient land where people have been gathering for thousands of years. And we will honor the original inhabitants of this land, Nitsitapi, the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Mountain people, the Stoney Nakoda people, the Beaver people of the Tsuut'ina Nation, our immediate neighbors, and the Métis people with their long history on this land. And as an organization, we will continue to ensure that people from every nation, people from every corner of this earth who find their homes here will be well served here. And Nmax will be an important part of a future of prosperity for all of us. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Greg, for the exciting parts of the AGM formal motions. And then we will hopefully get into a very good dialogue about the present and future of the corporation.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor Nenshi. We will now turn to the 3 items of shareholder business. The first item is the receipt of Enmax's 2020 audited financial statements and financial report by our shareholder. The statements were audited by Deloitte LLP and approved by the Enmax board in March 2021. The second item of business is the appointment of the external auditor. The Enmax Audit Committee and board are recommending the appointment of Deloitte LLP as auditors for Enmax Corporation. The board is asking for authorization to fix the remuneration of Deloitte for audit work associated with the 2021 fiscal year. The final order is the election of directors. Provided the proposed resolution is passed, the board, comprised of 11 members, will govern with a view to serve our shareholder and the citizens of Calgary, ensuring Enmax is well positioned to deliver value. Ms. Barbara Monroe and Dr. Chika Onwekwe are included in the director nominees. The slate of directors up for election today include myself, Greg Melchin, Wayne O'Connor, Laura Formusa, Eric Markel, Barbara Monroe, Dr. Chika Onwekwe, Elise Reese, Charles Rugrock, Kathleen Sendel, William Taylor, and Bruce Williamson. The resolutions are as follows. First, resolved that the shareholder of Enmax Corporation receive the 2020 annual audited financial statements and financial report for information. Second, resolved that the shareholder of Enmax Corporation approve the appointment of Deloitte LLP as auditors for Enmax Corporation for the 2021 fiscal year and authorize the board of directors to fix the remuneration of Deloitte LLP for audit work associated with the 2021 fiscal year. And lastly, resolved that the shareholder of Enmax Corporation approves, effective immediately, the election of the board of directors to hold office until the next annual meeting of the corporation. Now, Mayor Nenshi will conduct the official vote for each matter of business reviewed with you today. He will call upon each member of council to provide their vote on each matter. After all votes of council are in, Mayor Nenshi will cast the final vote on all 3 resolutions. Mayor Nenshi.
Great, thanks very much. I might do this by exception just to make it a little bit easier. So I'll remind council or sitting as the shareholder that there are 3 resolutions. So on the first resolution, which is to resolve that the shareholder of Enmax Corporation receive the annual audited financial statements and financial report for information, that's moved by Councillor Keating and seconded by Councillor Demong. Thank you. On that, are we agreed? Are there any opposed?
Councillor Collier-Cart's opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very well. On the resolution that we appoint Deloitte LLP as auditors and authorize the board to fix their remuneration, same mover and seconder. On that, are we agreed? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And finally, that we elect the board of directors as submitted to you earlier, same mover and seconder. On that, are we agreed? Any opposed?
Councillor Collier-Cart's opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Farkas is also opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you. So we do have a majority on all 3 of those recommendations. So, Mr. Chair, I will cast the shareholder vote in favor of all 3 resolutions.
I want to thank members of council and Mayor Nenshi.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just before you go on, I see that Councillor Farkas has his hand up, probably in relation to that vote. You may wish to deal with that first.
Councillor Farkas, any questions?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chair. I thought it would just be appropriate to explain myself. I'm not opposed to the slate of candidates, and I think the candidates that were chosen were well qualified. But I do have concerns around no longer having council members appointed to the board as directors. So I just wanted to clarify that and again reiterate my support for the individuals who are involved. But I do believe that at this time we should be having council members oversight as board directors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Farkas. With that, and we do want to thank again all council members. We've had tremendous support really from council all through the years on all the issues, and we've now completed the formal part of the business of our annual shareholder meeting. And I'd like to terminate the shareholder portion of our meeting and move to our business update. And with that, on behalf of Nmax, I'd like to thank members of council again supporting our work. And I want to welcome our President and CEO, Wayne O'Connor, to provide a report on Enmax. Following his report, there will be time at the end for a short Q&A. Wayne?
Thank you, and hello, everyone. I'm pleased to give a brief overview of our performance and on our continued focus on delivering safe, responsible, reliable service to our customers and creating value for our shareholder, the City of Calgary. Before I share the business update, I want to start by extending my personal recognition of the significant contributions made by the Enmax team this past year. They showed resilience and agility, as well as a deep commitment to serving this city and all of our customers, and I'm extremely grateful for their hard work. Now let me start the update by providing an overview of our business and subsidiaries. Headquartered in Calgary, with operations across Alberta and Maine, Enmax is a leading provider of electricity services, products, and solutions. Between our three business units, we operate across the electricity value chain. We operate a regulated electric utility company that serves the citizens of Calgary, a competitive power generation and retail company that serves the province of Alberta, and a regulated electric utility company that serves the people of northern and eastern Maine. I'd like to turn now to our 2020 performance. When we met last year, we were facing a unique and challenging time as a company, a city, and as a global community. These conditions remained in place throughout this past year, and our team took great care in supporting our customers and communities while continuing to deliver essential electricity services safely and reliably. I'm really proud of how our team demonstrated that safety was their top priority. In fact, Enmax had its strongest safety performance of all time, and Versant Power also achieved its best year on record. This is a significant achievement at any time, but particularly during a year that required so many changes to our working procedures. Our team transitioned to new work environments and protocols and did so with an absolute commitment to safety. Over the past year, we continued to strengthen our focus on our core business of delivering electricity and electricity services to our customers. This is in alignment with our strategy of increasing the value of Enmax through growing the regulated side of our business. As part of this focus, we adjusted pieces of our competitive business that are not core to our strategy and reorganized internally to right size and to better meet our business needs and strategy. Like many businesses, the impacts and tough decisions required during 2020 were felt by all. Enmax was also not immune to the financial impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Difficult economic conditions meant we needed to undertake prudent measures to ensure we were well positioned for today and for the future. In 2020, we successfully integrated Versant Power, furthering our strategy to expand our regulated asset base and deliver a stable and growing dividend to our shareholder. Versant Power is a valued member of the Enmax family, and we are pleased with the company's strong performance in 2020 and the fine work being done by their board, executive team, and employees as they continue to serve the customers of northern and eastern Maine. Turning back to the Enmax family broadly, the team continued our history of responsibly serving our communities. Together, we invested over $3 million in supporting essential community organizations, including agencies such as Trellis, Boys and Girls Club, Distress Center Calgary, and the United Way. As a result of our focus and the addition of Versant, we also achieved solid financial performance and declared a dividend of $58 million to our shareholder, the City of Calgary, a 7% increase relative to 2019. Since 1998, Nmax has contributed $1.14 billion in dividends to the City of Calgary. Moving to the operations side, we're continually investing in the potential of the communities we serve by maintaining and upgrading the electricity infrastructure that our customers increasingly rely on. In 2020 alone, we invested $259 million here in Calgary. As a result of this ongoing commitment, Calgary's system has continually ranked in the top quartile for reliability amongst Canadian utilities by the Canadian Electricity Association. Our Alberta customer care team delivered record levels of service in 2020, achieving a 90% customer satisfaction rating. We supported our customers through the pandemic with a COVID-19 customer relief program that included payment deferrals and flexible repayment plans. What I'm particularly proud of in 2020 is that we successfully navigated our way through the pandemic while keeping our focus firmly on the increasingly important role we play in the future of our customers and communities. Indeed, the electricity industry is transforming at a rapid rate, and we're innovating to meet our customers' changing needs and preparing for the critical role that electrification will play in a sustainable future. 2020 marked an advancement and commitment to both progressing and communicating our environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, targets and commitments. Enmax has a strong history of sustainable business practices, and we've publicly disclosed our sustainability performance for the past 14 years. This year, we've built on that strong foundation with the development of an enhanced ESG approach to help guide our focus over the years ahead as our industry and customers' energy needs evolve. We've taken a holistic view towards how we approach sustainable value through striving to achieve a lower carbon future, advancing electrification, seeking to invest in resiliency and innovation, enabling a talented, diverse, and inclusive team, and doing our part to enable continued access to safe, reliable, and affordable energy for years to come. Some highlights of our 2020 environmental performance include helping our customers adapt more sustainable energy solutions. This included the installation of 5.6 megawatts of solar energy, bringing Enmax total solar capacity to 36.9 megawatts. We've also made it easier for our commercial customers to adopt renewables by introducing something called capacity maps. With this technology, commercial customers can quickly shortlist locations for their next renewable build, such as solar, based on the distribution system's capacity. Enmax is also the first utility in Canada to test a solution that will enable two-way power flow on a part of the grid that typically couldn't support it, meaning more customers will be able to use solar and battery storage technology. Our secondary network project is well underway, and we have partnered with Cadillac Fairview to use Chinook Mall as the pilot site of this work. Looking ahead, we are anticipating increased adoption of electric vehicles, and we're preparing for that now by engaging with customers and gathering data through ChargeUp, our electric vehicle pilot. This pilot has given us a better understanding of the charging behaviors, and the next phase of it will focus on smart charging. In addition to working with customers on sustainable energy solutions, we're also looking at our own assets. Enmax has already achieved significant reductions in our generation fleet emissions, having reduced GHG emissions by 65% since 2015. Today, we hold the lowest emitting power generation fleet of any major energy supplier in Alberta. As we continue to advance our environmental leadership, We progressed a series of innovative projects this year, including Canada's first hybrid electric gas turbine at our Crossfield Energy Centre, and increasing the efficiency of our Shepherd Energy Centre and reducing water usage there by 500 million liters annually. We're also working with community partners on projects that enhance efficiency. Since 2015, we've supported the Federation of Calgary Communities Energizing Spaces Fund, a program that provides grants for community associations to upgrade to energy-efficient lighting and appliances. The fund has helped 72 community groups across Calgary to date. And this year marked an important milestone in our involvement with the COSIA Carbon X Prize. Our Shepherd Energy Centre provided flue gas to the 5 Alberta-based contestants working at the Alberta Carbon Capture Technology Centre, and a winner was just announced this spring. We anticipate that we'll continue to work with the ACCTC to attract innovators from around the world beyond the X Prize. As you can see, Enmax is engaged in a diverse range of environmental initiatives and investments, and as a result of these efforts, we were designated a sustainable electricity company by the Canadian Electricity Association. More details on our ESG performance and targets can be found in our 2020 ESG report, available at nmax.com. I encourage you to read it. As we look ahead, we know the fundamental role electricity and electrification will play for our customers. We have an incredible opportunity to drive greater use of electricity and to prepare for that by updating our traditional systems to ensure we have a strong base that's safe and reliable, while keeping an eye on preparing for and innovating for the future to ensure we're doing it in the most sustainable way. That concludes our year in review. To all of you with us here today, stay safe, and thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Wayne. We'll now open it up to questions and Q&A session. First, will be limited to the shareholder representatives, our council members themselves. Then we'll open it up to the public afterwards. And following this meeting, we do have a separate media scrum and link to that meeting for the media. So I'll first open it up to members of council for any questions that they have. You use the hand signal, and if I miss that, I'll get Diana to help me.
Thank you, Greg. It's Diana Stevenson here. Not seeing any hands up yet from members of council. Just give it one more moment in case anybody's getting to that button. Oh, I believe we've got Councillor Woolley.
Councillor Woolley?
Well, if none of my colleagues are going to do it, I'll just chuck you guys a couple of softballs. How about that? You know, and we spent a ton of time just last week at Audit Committee, and I'm just really appreciative of all of the work that you're doing. One of the things that had been raised, and I think it's just important to identify it here again, is when we undertook the acquisition of Emera Maine, the shareholder was told that we wouldn't see, or we weren't expected to see, credit downgrades as a part of that transaction. And there's a significant amount of debt that was taken as a part of that. And I know there's a number of factors in that. And there was concern raised at Audit Committee around 2 credit downgradings and then a negative outlook just recently. And I'm wondering, Wayne or Greg, if you could just comment or give some confidence that will, I mean, another step down, and that's not a good thing. And I'm wondering how you can give the shareholder confidence that that's not going to happen, and what mitigation strategies or what work you have underway to get that credit rating back up, and when can we expect to see that?
Thank you, Councillor Woolley. I'll have Wayne, our President CEO, respond particularly, but I would mention one of the things that this acquisition did was certainly, as you commented, it increased our leverage or our debt at this stage to acquire the utility in Maine. But even the bond rating agencies acknowledge that the business profile risk has gone down, that it's a less risky business that we have today. And that's really what we were trying to get at, so that the long term will have less volatility, less risk, and it actually improved credit ratings. We have the assets that we've acquired both in Maine and the ones here are producing well. They are generating positive cash flows, even in a very difficult year like we just had. And so we knew that there's always a risk, given the leverage that we have, of some degree of downgrade, but that we still remain investment grade. And I'll have Wayne just supplement that.
Thank you. So where we're focused on is ensuring that we sustain our current credit rating, and with S&P is the one, Evan, you're speaking of particularly. We're focused on a few things. So making sure that we invest our capital or our free cash flows wisely. So that's making sure we put it into investments that are good for customers and that we'll be able to recover those costs rapidly. We have an eye on making sure that we're not spending money unnecessarily at the corporate level, that we're doing things efficiently and effectively there, and that any spare money we have will go down to paying down debt. S&P did, as Greg mentioned, recognize that there are a lot of good things that have happened recently, but given concerns around COVID and some regulatory concerns, they moved us into a negative spot. But I can assure you the organization, myself, and all of the executives are focused on making sure that we pay down our debt, that we deliver on our promises budget-wise, and in the next year or two, we will see much better results. Last year, because of COVID, was a bit of a challenging year, and this year we have the Shepherd Energy Center, which is out. It's now back in return to service, but was out for 41 days. So that was a pretty big impact to our cash flows this year. Next year, we don't have any of those things, and we see much better financial results. But we are firmly focused on that and appreciate the importance of it.
Okay, so are you expecting that credit rating to go up next year?
I would like to say yes, but S&P and all of the credit agencies are very conservative, so they will take their time and they will want to see us making regular debt repayments and consistent results. So I can't say what they will do, to be honest, but we will make sure that we're doing the right things here, and in time they will improve our credit rating, I have no doubt.
Okay, thanks very much. And then my only other question, and I asked this at the audit meeting last week, but I wasn't aware that we actually haven't reviewed the dividend formula or the dividend policy in 20 years. And I'm wondering if subsequent to that being raised, if any other conversations had happened. I mean, any good governance formula practice would kind of say you look at these policies every 5, maybe 10 years, and we are now sitting at 20. Enmax was a different company 20 years ago. We're a very different company now, and I'm wondering, would you need direction to undertake a review? What would that review look like? And I'm wondering if you've given it any further thought.
Thank you. Dividend policy is, it's always the purview, and always willing to have that discussion with council if it works or doesn't really work for the city of Calgary. And those are excellent discussions. We'd be happy to entertain at any time. That said, the policy which was enacted when Nmax was first put in as a private corporation over 20 years ago now, had this minimum of 30%. And we have, by practice, long since been well over a 30% minimum. We've not been back at a 30% minimum for almost since the inception. And so annually, we actually do review the dividend. What can we provide? And we make adjustments. Sometimes it's actually more. There's been a couple of years less, but for most years, it's actually been more than the policy. So we do look at this as a board each year in declaring a dividend. We don't take a straight formulaic approach, and we've also at times had discussions with shareholder, but we'd be more than pleased to have that ongoing dialogue.
And Councillor Woolley, if I could just add one thing, sorry, I didn't add to the last answer. We've also recently been in conversation with our Canadian banking syndicate to restructure our existing debt. And the banks here in Canada have said that there is no impact to our cost of debt currently as a result of the S&P's move to negative watch. And so I think that's really good news. It reflects how strong our core business is and their commitment to the company. So I just thought I should share that with you as well.
No, I'm really appreciative of that. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the presentation. That's all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Keating and then Councillor Carra.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Woolley asked a number of the questions I was thinking of as well, but I'll add two components to it. Could you describe the value add to the corporation of Enmax that acquiring Emera Maine possibly has done for us in those terms, so the shareholder can really understand the benefits, as well as what has happened in Emera Maine to improve service there from what they've had in the past? Thank you.
Wayne, I'll have you take that to begin with.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So I would say a few things about Versant Power. So what it does is it improves what's called the quality of our earnings, which is an important metric for those who look at debt. So really what that says is earnings from regulated businesses are better than earnings from unregulated businesses. Largely that means that those earnings are more sustainable, are subject to less volatility and higher quality. So the investment in Versant Power has increased overall the quality of our earnings, which was highlighted by both DBRS and S&P. Then what does it do specifically to the citizens of Calgary and the city of Calgary? It increases all of our financial metrics. It makes them stronger, and it increases our ability to pay a growing and stable dividend into the future. So last year, our dividend increased, the payment we made to the city over 2019, and that's largely as a result of Versant being included in our earnings. And we anticipate that will continue to grow over the future as they invest in their systems there and their infrastructure there, and they work with their customers to provide solutions. So we're very optimistic and that business will continue to provide both to its customers, but also to the shareholder, the city of Calgary. Now, what they're doing there to improve reliability and service for customers is much like what you would see here in Calgary. The big difference is Maine has a lot of trees, so they spend a lot more time focused on reliability initiatives around tree trimming and those kinds of things. But right now they're in the midst of implementing a few new initiatives for customer service. One of it is a customer information system. So they're updating that system so that it's much easier for customers to communicate with the utility and the utility to communicate with them. As well, they're implementing and rolling out a number of new meters, smart meters, into some of their customer territory. So those are the things they're focused on. Of course, there's many initiatives day to day, week to week that they are focused on, but they had a really good year last year on reliability metrics, had an outstanding year, and so far this year they're off to a really good start as well.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Councillor Keating?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Councillor Carra?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for that line of questioning about Emera Maine. I appreciate the questions and the answers. I got two other questions. One is a very small thing, and I don't want to address it here. I just want to address it. I just want to give you a preview of coming attractions that this is something that I'm going to be addressing because it's connected to a larger initiative that we've been working on. But the big question I want to ask you, and I'll ask it first, has to do with our commitment to getting to a net zero position. This seems to be the gold standard across the world now. It's definitely a conversation we're having at City Hall. And I believe there are members of the public who are strongly advocating that as, our power company, our publicly owned power company, that this is something we should take a leadership stance in. I know that there has been quite a bit of work done by Enmax, and because you guys want to make sure that when you make a commitment that you're able to, that it's the right thing to do and that you're able to fulfill it. I just was wondering if, in advance of questions from the public and advocacy from the public to take a leadership stance with regard to climate, if you guys have any observations and any commitments you'd like to share.
Wayne?
Thank you for the question. We too are very passionate about the environment and what we're doing as an organization. Our employees are very passionate about it, and we're quite proud of our recent ESG report, as you had mentioned. And within that report, we've made a number of commitments to our stakeholders and the shareholder and the communities we serve, right from a commitment to having a fully electric vehicle fleet by 2030. With some interim steps between now and then. And we are really deeply committed on doing our part. And we're always open to engagement and a dialogue with stakeholders. And myself, since I've been here the last year, I've met with a number of groups representing all ends of the spectrum on this. And one of the things that we're really passionate about as well is affordability. And how do we achieve all of these things in a way that's affordable for everyone? So we'll continue to work with that. Happy to hear from the public or others who have thoughts and ideas. And we spent a lot of time in the last year gathering input from a wide group of people when we put our ESG report together. So look forward to having more conversations.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that went into the ESG report. My other question is, we've been talking about how, as when I started in my role, Nmax was looking at diversifying vertically. The Emera Maine is I guess a horizontal diversification of our portfolio, and the realization that the dowdy old wires business is actually a very smart and necessary economic bet. We do have in Calgary's inner city a wires business that is challenged by I would say old school encumbrages and weird situations that do not meet current codes and all of those things. And as we redevelop the inner city, we see a lot of conflict between those old sort of vernacular wire pole situations and the need to build a city that densifies and that becomes more and more vibrant. I'm gratified by a commitment on the part of Enmax to start scoping out how we can be more proactive in addressing these one-off situations with wires, so that we can move quickly, we can move at the speed of business, we can move at the speed of redevelopment. And I'm glad that we're doing that. And I guess my question would be, do you want to speak to that commitment? But before you do, I just want to let you know that we're not there yet. And I will be bringing a place where we're failing in that regard pretty significantly before you guys offline, not at the AGM. But in terms of a sort of a bigger strategic move, is there anything you'd like to speak to in terms of the conversation that we've begun about finding a way to be more systematic and more speedy in our resolution of weird historical situations with wires and property lines and encumbrages and stuff like that?
Maybe I'll just say a few high-level words, and then I'll give Jana a heads up that maybe she would like to speak more specifically to it, because it's her and her team that have been focused on this. So, of course, we want to try and make dealing with us easier, reduce the bureaucracy and the time it takes for us to make decisions. And we appreciate that time is money, and we need to be responsive to customers' needs. So we are focused on that. We know we can do better. And Jana and her team have a number of initiatives started to try and streamline the process here in Calgary. So Jana, maybe if you would like to add a few things specifically to that, but rest assured it is a priority for us to make it easier for us to do business with us and to find solutions for customers more rapidly.
Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, happy to add a little bit more to that. So we're going to be investing, I think this year, around $70 million in Calgary's downtown core. I think we go up to just over 100 million in 2022 and even higher than that in 2023, really accommodating a lot of the growth that's happening and the city's vision for downtown. We've had the opportunity to work more closely over the last few months with city administration as they are advancing the plans for Calgary's greater downtown area, and really see an opportunity to coordinate more closely around both the vision, what we're hearing from the developer community and from the people that are already living downtown, and some of what you've spoken to there, Councillor Carr, just the little things that get in the way as people are trying to build new homes in some of our neighborhoods that we're rejuvenating. I think the other thing that we've taken away from conversations both with yourself and from other stakeholders in the last 6 months is just an opportunity to work more closely with both the build community in Calgary, as well as just providing more transparency around what goes into our costs, our timelines. And there's been a real focus in how do we cut down the timelines for simple customer projects, where we've been able to take timelines down from anywhere from 36 weeks down to 13 weeks. This is an area that's a major focus for our organization. We see the opportunity to improve and collaborate, and we're going to continue to stay committed to doing that over the next several years as we've got this exciting plan for our city.
I love everything that you guys just said. I think that's great. I'm totally supportive of it. Look forward to working with you to sort of systemic approaches to really increasing timelines. As I said, I've got a particular issue where I think we've dropped the ball a little bit, and I will be following up with you offline. But thank you very much for that sort of strategic vision. That concludes my questions, Chair McShane.
Greg, you'll need to unmute.
Good unmute. I don't see any other questions from council, and so at this stage we'll open it up to questions from the public. Before anybody, they need to at least introduce themselves. So the first questions, I need some help on this, Diana, as far as the names coming up.
Absolutely. So we have a gentleman registered under Joe. We will open that up for the first question.
Okay, Joe.
Hi there. I'm just hoping you guys can hear me. Can you confirm?
We can.
Okay, excellent. Joe Vipon with the Calgary Climate Hub. Sorry, I wasn't able to put in my last name, but it's Joe Vipon with the Calgary Climate Hub. And I'm just wondering, we had a fruitful engagement with the board during the process of developing your ESG process, and just recognizing that as a municipally owned utility, presumably the reason why you're municipally owned and not publicly owned, or alternatively publicly owned by the public markets, you provide some extra value to the citizens of Calgary beyond just the corporate making money, basically. So I'm just wondering how the city itself, the citizens of the city, and perhaps even the hub can continue engaging with the corporation to ensure that climate is maintained at the highest levels, and that these targets that you've announced are achieved.
Wayne?
Well, Dr. Vipon, good to see you, and thank you for the question. So we're, of course, we're happy to continue to engage with stakeholders, citizens of Calgary, hear from them what's on their mind and what's important to them. I think the company does a really good job, far beyond just its economic dividend back to this city. We participate in a whole bunch of different areas, as you know. We support the communities we work in, both directly through donations, but also through donations of our time and energy in support of really important causes, and we'll continue to do that. And I do think our ESG report and the commitments there are leading, and we are forging ahead. And the organization has a really, I think, a really proud history and something we should celebrate. But of course, happy to continue dialogues with you, Climate Hub, and others who have a perspective on the future and what we can do.
That's excellent. Yeah, if we could, recognize that the hub doesn't represent all citizens on this issue, maybe we need to look at some kind of broader engagement process similar to what the city has in their climate panel. I've been very impressed with what the Seattle Power and Light has as far as their process for engaging with the corporation. So that may be a model we want to look at going forward.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm happy to take a look at it. And I think you've nailed it. It's important to make sure everybody has a voice at the table.
Thank you, Dr. Vipon. Diana, next person.
Absolutely. We have Christine Lang.
Hello. Okay. So I'm Christine Lang. I'm with the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good. And Diana Stevenson has been very dynamic and effective in conversations with the public. And I understand she is very well respected in those conversations on climate mitigation and electrification. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I also observed that sustainability and public affairs are not fundamentally linked. So my question is, does Enmax have a team in place beyond public affairs personnel specifically created to give effect to your net zero targets? If so, who's on it? And if not, will you be creating one? Thank you.
Wayne?
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, Diana has done a great job for us on leading our ESG work. So it's very kind of you to highlight that, and thank you for that. So I'll speak a little bit about our commitments that are in the ESG report. So those commitments are owned by the operating segments of our business. So for instance, our commitment to reduce our GHGs, those were agreed to and signed up to, and if there are any costs, are paid by the businesses. So there are, and the executives of those businesses who are here today know that they have to meet those targets, that they have to make those investments, and it's part of their budgets on an annual basis on a go forward. So even though we don't have a centralized ESG team, each of the operating businesses is responsible for delivering those and will be held accountable for delivering on all of that. So from a governance perspective, I'm very comfortable that we have a good structure in place. Pardon me. As to ESG, Diana is in the process of hiring now somebody just to focus on ESG for the corporation. She's been on that for the last few months. That person will report into her. So we're building a small structure to ensure corporately that we do two things, that we make sure each of the operating companies are in fact living up to the obligations and commitments we made, but as well looking outside of the organization to say, what is going on in the ESG space? What are best practices? What are the evolving issues? And where are we in that? And to participate in those dialogues. So yes, we are making investments in the ESG space. And I don't know, Diana, if there's anything you would like to add to that?
No, thank you for that. I think I would just echo Wayne's comments that what you see before us in our ESG report was truly a culmination of the entire Enmax team. So we had subject matter experts, technical experts, business leads from across our organization, including all of our subsidiaries, fully committed to those objectives and those commitments that you're seeing in our report. And one of the great opportunities going forward as we bring in our additional ESG resourcing is really to channel all of that energy and ensure we stay on path with upcoming regular reports to members of council and also to the public on the progress that we make over the next few years.
Thank you very much for that detail. That's wonderful. Maybe just a quick follow-up on that. Would Enmax commit to having those annual budgets reviewed by third parties and disclosed regularly, and commit to some form of citizen participation in addition to that council oversight?
Wayne?
So our budgets are reviewed annually by all of the management here, by the board of directors. The board of directors approves the budgets, and the board, in fact, approved the ESG report and all of the commitments in there. So I know Greg will make sure that we deliver on all of those obligations. As well, Deloitte is our auditor. They will review and make all of their findings public. All of our reports are publicly available, so we're happy to be and are very transparent on all of those individual commitments, and we'll continue to be transparent on that. And as I mentioned earlier, we're happy to hear from citizens about their passion and where they think we can do more and where we can spend more. So happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diana, next person.
Absolutely. I believe we have Ryan Anderson next.
Great, thank you very much. We'll be continuing on a theme, but as my name is Ryan Anderson, I'm also with the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good. I'm the lead organizer of it. So we are having some really hot days these days, and we're expecting some more even record-breaking temperatures coming up. So I want to begin by first of all just saying thank you very much for your commitment to net zero greenhouse gas emissions. But my question is that according to your ESG report, 99.5% of your greenhouse gas comes from your power generation, while only 0.3% comes from your operations and corporate buildings, and 0.2% comes from your mobile fleet. And in the report, it seems like most of the commitments are around those smaller percentages. So what my question is what are your plans to have generation, so the source of 99.5% of your emissions, not just become more efficient, but move towards net zero? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll say a few words, and Lonnie Enns, who's here and responsible for the generation fleet, may invite him to say a few things as well. So you're right, most of our emissions come from our generating fleet. Not surprisingly, it's a large generation fleet, very important piece of infrastructure here in Alberta. No more so than on days like this where we need absolutely every last megawatt. So what we've been focused on is making investments in those units to make sure they're as efficient as possible, that they emit as few greenhouse gases as possible. And as I said in my remarks, we are working now with a number of organizations on what other things can we do, like carbon capture, like sequestration. And it's early days for those initiatives, but I have no doubt in the years ahead, we're going to find solutions that will allow us to greatly reduce the emissions from our existing fleet. At the same time, we're making more and more investments in things like solar. We already have wind. We're looking at a number of initiatives on our current wind assets and to acquire more. So I know for sure I can't speak to anything specific, but we will continue to grow our non-emitting generation side of the portfolio, and that over time will help as well. And I don't know, Lonnie, if there's anything specifically you'd like to add to what you and the team are doing around the existing fleet and reducing its emissions beyond what I've already said.
Yes, Wayne, yeah, it's Lonnie Enns. Thank you very much. I can certainly respond to that. We have invested significantly into our fleet to try to gain those efficiencies, and that is only step one. With the cross-field hybrid battery that we just commissioned this spring, that reduced emissions at that one facility by 80%. That's the equivalent of 10,000 cars off the road every year. So that's the kind of efficiency gains that we can get as we invest in our assets. Shepherd facility, as Wayne talked about, the efficiency gains, the reduction in water, other emissions, those are really top of mind. And again, he talked a little bit about carbon capture. We've been approached by a number of companies that are looking at making those investments, and they're really becoming viable now. We're looking to the end of the decade. How do we participate in those type of opportunities, find the right partner and get those things installed? If we were to sequester and capture all of the carbon out of our Shepherd Energy facility, for example, that would be one of the largest carbon capture facilities in the world at this time. Having said that, the Shepherd facility is the cleanest burning combined cycle facility, certainly in Alberta, but in Canada and even in North America, it's one of the cleanest. And as Wayne said, we have the cleanest fleet, and we're very proud of that. But we're always looking to be, leading edge, not bleeding edge, but certainly leading edge, and trying to reduce emissions, and it's always top of mind. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to continuing the conversation as a more detailed plan gets developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. We're coming to the end of our time, but we'll have one more question. We'll go to Rob Tremblay, and then we'll conclude our formal part of the question and answer period. Rob?
Hey, you can all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Rob Tremblay. I'm with the Calgary Climate Hub as well. I'd like to echo what Ryan said and just thank Nmax for its recent net zero commitment. So the NDP have recently announced that if they're elected in 2023, they'll target 2035 as a net zero target date, which is the same target that President Biden is pursuing in the US. How prepared is Nmax to pivot to meet this target if it materializes? And I guess more generally, given how fast climate policy seems to be accelerating across jurisdictions, how will Nmax ensure that its business is resilient and future-proofed to the disruption that future climate policy might provide?
Wayne?
Thank you. Maybe I'll take the question and I'll reverse the answers. So by owning the critical electrical infrastructure like Enmax Power here in Calgary and Versant Power in Maine, we believe that that's the best part of the whole energy chain in the future as the world moves from high carbon to low carbon, that distribution network is critical to enable customers, companies, and governments to move to a world with much lower carbon output. And what we're doing is making investments in that. So those systems are as reliable and as resilient as possible, because electricity is critical today. It is going to be even more critical 5 years from now, and absolutely fundamental in a decade from now. So we're going to continue to make wise investments there that allow for electrification on a much grander scale. As we see electric vehicles come in, we're making investments to ensure that we can do that appropriately. So that's what we're doing to make sure that the future for all of our customers is good and can allow for a rapid electrification, because we do believe that that's the way forward. So we're really excited about that. We'll continue to do that. As it relates to government policy, of course, we'll react to whatever the policies are. It is a challenge as we think about getting to net zero in a really short time frame. There is going to need to be technological advancements to allow us to do that. Otherwise, I fear, quite honestly, that it will not be affordable, and the transition will have huge price tags. But of course, we're going to work with whatever the rules are, whatever the plans are by federal or state or provincial governments, and of course, we'll adhere to that. And I would just point out a really interesting document around net zero produced by Princeton recently. If you want to see some really good in-depth work, they looked at the US, broke it into 14 jurisdictions, and have a really interesting model behind it that says, to get to net zero, we're going to need all pieces of the energy economy to come together. And that includes relying on things like carbon capture. So I think that was a really good piece of work, and shows just how complicated the challenge is and how complicated the solutions will be. But we'll definitely be at the table and participating in that.
Thanks, Wayne. Yeah, I appreciate the answer, and look forward to working together in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And I want to thank everybody for participating with us, to council, your continued support on behalf of all Calgarians. We thank all Calgarians. And, in that respect, we'll continue to be here trying to bring the right people and the right mix of even customer support, that we can continue to provide the services in a safe, reliable, affordable, and certainly a sustainable fashion. And so with that, we thank you. We'll now conclude our business of our annual general meeting. Thank you.